Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Guys Night Lab, Halloween Nights. I'm Jesus Velasquez.
I'm Jordan Zacharias.
And I hope you guys have been having a great Halloween time so far. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about another Halloween movie you should definitely see this Halloween Nights, this summer.
This one might be the hit of the summer.
Yes, the summer Frightmare movie. Anyways, but for Halloween, definitely, there's this movie called...
There's this guy.
Yeah. To the hospital we go. Anyways, it's called Halloween 2, and it is the sequel to Halloween of Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. This is actually one of my favorite movies for not even Halloween. It's just like scary movies. It's one of my favorite movies. It is a movie that just takes place directly after Halloween.
Yep, right after the first movie.
And
what was the year this one came out versus the first one? I'm sorry.
So I think the first one came out in 78, and I think this one came out in 81. I'm not 100% sure.
Keep going. I'll look
but yeah, look it up or let me know in the comments. But anyway, so it literally takes place right after the first one, and they do a recap on the first one where...
81, you're right.
Yeah, so yeah, I know my movies for the most part. But it has a recap where Laurie Strode is telling the kids... to run out the street screaming. Loomis sees them. They go, and then they shoot Michael Myers. And then she's like, "Who's that? The boogeyman?" He's like, "I do believe so. That is."
By the way, we should remind people or let them know if they don't know, we have a full Halloween, the first movie, the original commentary on our YouTube channel.
Oh,
that we could maybe put out as a podcast eventually too, for at least audio only version. But it is audio only actually. But if you go on YouTube and look up our Halloween commentary, that one's pretty funny. So.
Yes. So yeah, if you see our Halloween commentary, it probably has a lot of thumbs down that you can't see because people thought it was the actual movie, but it's not. It's just a commentary of us doing a commentary while we're watching Halloween. And since we're so funny, I'm sure you're going to want to watch it or listen to it. So don't put a thumbs down on it because it's not even going to show up. Anyways, but yeah, so we have a Halloween commentary. But in Halloween 2, it takes place right after Halloween. So in the end of the first one, his body is missing, and then that's how it ends.
Right.
So then part 2, it picks up from that. His body's missing, and then Loomis is on the track again. He's hunting down Michael Myers. Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, is going to the hospital. To the hospital. So the whole place of Halloween 2 takes place in the hospital.
Right.
So... the sheriff's daughter is, well, if you haven't seen Halloween 1, spoiler, I'm sure you should have seen it by now. But if you haven't, spoiler, take a minute. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So the sheriff's daughter is murdered in the first one. Mm-hmm. So the sheriff in the first one, he's with Loomis the whole time.
By the way, the sheriff's daughter is the one with the curly brown hair,
yes,
right?
Yes, she's the one that gets murdered in the car.
Okay.
And so... the sheriff's daughter, she gets murdered. So the sheriff that's with Loomis the whole movie, he finds out that his daughter gets murdered in the second one. So he leaves, exit.
Sheriff's is on a vengeance trip, right?
Yeah, so then a new sheriff shows up, and he's with Loomis the whole time. So then Laurie's at the hospital, and, okay, so once again, we're going to go over the whole movie, but there's going to be spoilers here. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Mm-hmm. But we're just going to explain everything that happens to an extent. So there might be some spoilers. Anyways, so Laurie's at the hospital, and then Myers finds Laurie at the hospital. So most of the killings, most of the story takes place at the hospital. This is the story where we find out that Laurie is Michael Myers' sister.
Mm-hmm.
So,
there's not even that high of a body count in this one either, right? Because there's only, maybe like 3 people in the hospital he takes out before he goes after Laurie?
Oh, no, he takes out a few.
Okay, I'm trying to think, dude. For some reason, I always remember the last half of this movie. Like I was telling you before we hit record, I always remember the last half of this movie, but not the first half as well, for some reason.
So, off the top of my head, I could think of...
You don't have to say who they are.
I'm not going to say, but I'm thinking boom, 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 boom. Definitely 6 at least, if not 7.
Okay, got it.
Oh yeah, no, he's on a...
Yeah, he's on a rampage.
Yeah, absolutely. So we find out that Laurie Strode is his sister in this one because Loomis, they talk about the files and all this stuff and everything.
The files.
And so then, anyways, long story short, more body count, takes place in the hospital. I think I love it because the hospitals. My mom used to work at a hospital.
Oh yeah, you told me that's why you like it.
Yeah,
it would be all eerily
it's
quiet.
super
at night.
eerie. Yeah, so like she would work the graveyard shift or like the 3 to midnight shift, and so as kids, my dad on some Fridays would have to take us to the hospital. I can't even say it without saying it.
Anytime I hear that phrase.
So he'd take us to the hospital, and we'd, my mom, we'd be there, and we'd go in and use like the vending machine or whatever, or they had like a little TV. And this was back in like the 80s, like
Right.
late 80s, early 90s. They had like a little guest room with like a TV and a vending machine, so we'd hang out there for like 20 minutes before she got off. But my sister and I would like walk the halls of the hospital, and it was like super creepy and eerie. So exactly how Halloween 2 is, because that takes place in 81. That's exactly how it was. It was just like abandoned, and just like there's no one there, and you're like, is
Right.
anyone here?
As a little kid too, that makes it extra creepy.
Oh, for sure. And so then that's why I love that atmosphere, because I've been in that atmosphere, and it just seems real. It just seems like, oh yeah, this is
Well,
exactly.
yeah, you have like an emotional connection with that, being like, oh yeah, I told I was there.
I was there, yeah. And
Yeah,
so anyways, Halloween 2, there's a lot of stuff that happens. It's kind of like the staple of the Halloween movies, the serial killers or whatever. Anyways, I'm not going to spoil the ending if you haven't seen it. Most of us have, so we know how it ends. But this is the one. Yeah, exactly. Dude, Laurie Strode, for someone who's never shot a gun, I mean, two dead shots.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude, snake eyes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
You remove Myers.
Hey, college boy, you think I can't? Are you Laurie Strode? Anyways, so if you haven't known, I know you know, but for the audience, that the Halloween series, and we found this out like a few years ago, that it was supposed to be an anthology. So that's why Halloween 3, which we'll review later, everyone was like, where the heck is Michael Myers?
Right.
And it was like, well, the original plan for Halloween, the movies, were that Halloween 1 and 2 were supposed to be connected anyways. It was supposed to be a part 1, part 2, a sequel. So that's why at the end...
And they were kind of suggesting that the story was over at that point, right?
Yeah, so the way part 2 ends, where... I mean, technically...
There's an explosion.
There's an explosion, and our antagonist and protagonist are gone, in a sense.
One of the protagonists, yeah.
Well, one of the protagonists, yeah, exactly. One of the protagonists and the antagonists are pretty much gone. There's no way they could have gotten out of that in the realistic way. So that was the wrap-up. That was the, like, we're done with this, so then we're going to do Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and there's not going to be Myers and everything. The whole point of that, which we found out later, was that the Halloween... movies were supposed to be anthologies. So even after Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which we'll explain later, that was supposed to be its own movie anyways. So then Halloween 4 was to be a different Halloween movie. And we talked about this where we thought that would have been a cool idea.
Yeah.
I
thought that was really cool.
I mean, I know Myers is an icon, and I love Halloween 4, so I'm glad they brought him back. But it would be cool. It would have been cool to have a movie like that, where it's just a different Halloween movie with the same title, but a different movie every different year.
Well, I don't know what you thought, but I always thought too it'd be kind of fun if they did it almost like did you ever? So there's the Goosebumps book series was huge when we were kids. Do you remember there's a separate one called Strange Matter that was kind of like Goosebumps, and a lot of people didn't know that one. It was a smaller. I think it had a smaller cult following, but it came out around the same time as the Goosebumps books, right after those. And these two guys wrote them.
Was it related to Goosebumps, or was it?
No, but it was cool because it was one town.
Okay.
So they had like probably 30 different books or 30, 40 different books. Then they had other side books that were like these longer, like, cool story arcs and stuff but their town was called Fairfield, and everything took place in Fairfield. So I always thought for Halloween 3, a cool idea would be, what if Haddonfield was the location each Halloween, but it told different stories, and then that way you could actually interweave Michael Myers in like something happening to where maybe he could be the protagonist in some story where there's some other killer out loose on a Halloween night taking people out or whatever, taking out kids while they're trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
But then Myers is the one that comes in and actually has to stop him.
Dude, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Like just weird things like that.
Yeah.
But I thought it'd be cool if it focused on the town but had totally different stories each time.
So it's like, instead of like So if they did like a spin-off, if they wanted
Haddonfield Files, if
what
you
is that?
will.
Or you could just call it Haddonfield, so
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Halloween, because Halloween's
Ooh,
now
and there would still be the H.
yeah, Halloween's dedicated
Halloween.
to Myers now, Michael Myers.
Right.
But if they still want to do like the spin-off, like anthology movies every year.
Hey, movie studios take our idea because I think that's cool. idea.
NDA right here, NDA.
NDA. NDA.
So NDA, mark it. We're good.
Mark it.
Okay.
Check. Mark.
At the 10-minute mark, NDA. But Haddonfield, I like that idea. All right, let's get on that.
I don't know.
Let's
We'll
try
get on it.
Yeah. And so, anyways, Halloween 2, great movie. I love it. Is there anything you want to add? I mean, it's pretty. So it's just a pretty simple sequel.
I like that it's a simple story. Like you said, it takes place in one location. And to me, that you can build a lot of horror that way. Again, like I referenced Shining, and I think in one of the last reviews we did of Candyman, go check that out if you haven't listened to that or watched that. But it's one of those things where it's like, I think that there's that isolation, which I love about The Thing, which we love about movies like that, where the hospital seems like it's the middle of the night. It's a hospital where most people are gone for the night. It does not like a big town or big city hospital where it's bustling with people. It seems like he's killed everyone who's there.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
everyone's dead except for Laurie at the end, and not to spoil too much, but because there are a couple other people that show up. But to me, it's a cool story. It's simple. It's a fun one, and I love it as part 1 and part 2 with the first Halloween in that one.
Yeah.
Later on in the series, unfortunately for me, after 3, it just starts going downhill. Even though I love part 4 and I love part 5, and we'll get to those. But after part 4, I think truly it just part 5 is part 5 is there takes Manhattan, in my opinion. So it's just kind of like
You know what? We haven't watched part 5. Maybe you need to give it another go.
But part 5 has some cool parts, man. I know like the I know some of the main parts to it, but to me it's obviously the curse.
It is.
Really
It
bad,
is.
but-
Yeah. It is a different movie, and it is a different like. Yeah, part 5 is not what you're right. The Jason Takes Manhattan.
You know what, dude? Okay, here's a promise. We'll watch it this year, and then we'll review part 4 and 5 this year.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe even part 6 if we have time.
Oh, part 6 is a disaster.
It's rough. It's
part
rough.
6 is the Jason Goes to Hell of.
Yeah, then
Myers
Dark Man shows up at the end and crap. It's all sorts of weird.
Anyways, but yes, Halloween 2, definitely a favorite for Halloween.
Yeah,
I mean
it's a
it's
fun one.
it's in the title. Definitely check it out. Watch Halloween and Halloween 2. A lot of people save Halloween for like Halloween night or like right before Halloween. I would say, hey, watch Halloween right at the beginning of Halloween time, October 5th. So you have time to watch Halloween 2 and
Totally.
kind of get those 2 movies, or even 4 and 5.
And maybe this would be interesting for people who haven't seen part 2. If Halloween, would you say Halloween part 1 for you is a 10?
Uh-huh.
So where would you put Halloween part 2?
So
what would you give it? 1
Okay,
to
like
10?
all critics and whatever aside, like for me, Halloween original is a 10, and I love it just because it's just the eeriness, the story, the filmmaking behind it. I love that movie just because it
too.
is what it is. So it's a 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween 2 in itself, even though it's different, it's an 8. It's that
Okay,
high for me.
got it. Yeah.
So there's little differences where I'm like, oh, but there's nothing that I would ever complain about this movie. It's like, yeah, I love this movie.
We'll both say the same thing. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. Yeah.
So from Guys Night Lab, I'm Jesus Velasquez and Jordan Zacharias. Check out Halloween 2, and we'll check you on the next Halloween nights. Take care.